President Cyril Ramaphosa has hit back at critics who dubbed his SONA address as a Wonderland, disconnected from the country's reality and too focused on the past. Yesterday, he responded to the State of the Nation address in Cape Town, and MPs criticized the president's view of Tintswalo, a fictional character who is a beneficiary of government's programs since democracy. Well, Ramaphosa says South Africa's past of colonialism and apartheid cannot be wished away. But let's unpack really the highlights of this week, particularly where the State of the Nation address is concerned, and also what this means for the governing party's future in this big election year. And for that, we're joined by former Gauteng Premier, Mr. Mbhazima, Shilowa, and also ANC Veteran League's Dr. Snuki, Zikalala. Gentlemen, good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us on Newzroom Afrika so early in the morning. I think I want to start with you, Dr. Zikalala, and say, you know, the big talking point this week has certainly been hashtag Tintswalo. I mean, it's been a big talking point. Yesterday we saw Tintswalos in the gallery in Parliament. Talk to us a little bit about whether or not you feel that discussion has done well for the African National Congress in this big election year.
Yeah, I think the President was correct to saying that Tintswalo, it does exist. As you know, that we have been oppressed since 1652, and we only got liberated in 1994. And so all the damage that was done over 3 decades, you can't just wish them away. And the young people who were born during when Comrade Mandela was released, they don't know what apartheid is, because they got into a system, into a much democratic system. Everything was apartheid. Laws were scrapped. The Group Areas Act was scrapped. Racial discrimination was scrapped. They don't understand where we come from. And so it is important to say this Tintswalo, it was born immediately when Mandela was released, and these are the young people who are benefiting and, of course, reaping the fruits of our liberation. And so we as veterans were very happy with the speech, because the ANC has the best policies in the world. It's just a question of implementing. The President can't, and the ANC cannot talk about new policies. Our policies are the best. What we are lacking as the African National Congress is the question of implementing our policies, making sure that individuals who are assigned to state-owned enterprises are individuals who are skilled, competent, and who are incorruptible. Then we'll be very, very far. We have done very well as the African National Congress, I don't lie. And so we as veterans, we support the speech of the President, and there's still more to be done. And we are fully behind all the programs of the African National Congress, so as to better the lives of the poor and of all South Africans.
Well, if you're part of the millions of young people that are, you know, perhaps born around the time that we saw the release of former President Nelson Mandela, and you've been unemployed for a very long time, you may hold a different view. Mr. Shilowa, what do you think of this discussion that South Africa is having around Tintswalo? Are we speaking soberly when we talk about the South African youth?
Yes, good morning. I think let me just say that I think the response of the President to the SONA yesterday, for me, was better than the delivery on last week, Thursday. Because I think he was better able to say to South Africans, look, when we say there is a Tintswalo born in 1994, we have gone to school, we have benefited from this government. It is true. He also said it's equally true when people say, but there are others, like Tintswalo, who may have gone through a similar process as she has, but who are still unemployed, who may have graduated, but have no jobs, who may have no water and have no sanitation. So I think the debate about whether Tintswalo exists or not, in my view, it is misplaced. It is more about what are the challenges that we still face going forward, that the country and the ANC being in government need to sort out, and or other parties that seek to replace the ANC can say, beyond just mere promises, this is what we're going to do. I don't think the debate is about whether South Africa is a better country than under apartheid. Of course it is a better country. It should be a better country. For me, the debate should be about how do we ensure the promise of the future as in the RDP and as in the Freedom Charter? That, for me, is the debate that the opposition and the ruling party should be having.
Yeah, if I come back to you, Dr. Zikalala, and perhaps, start to talk about whether or not, in your view, and as a veteran of the African National Congress at this point, you were proud of what you heard from members of the African National Congress that represent us in the NCOP and even in the National Assembly, for instance, particularly around where a tone and really understanding the realities of South Africa really are. Right? We saw this week Sylvia Lucas talking about load shedding not being the end of the world. That's gotten quite a few people irate. I mean, how do we reconcile what we've learned this week about whether or not the governing party is able to put itself in South Africans' shoes?
Well, I think it's an unfair criticism to the deputy chair of NCOP, saying that load shedding is not a factor. It is a factor. I'm sure it is a factor. And as the African National Congress, we are prepared to ensure that we end load shedding. But when is it going to happen? We can't predict, because damage was done through state capture. The South Africa knows exactly what happened to state capture. All state-owned enterprises were looted. All state-owned enterprises they deployed people based on patronage. Now, corruption was very rife at ESCOM, was very rife at SABC. Corruption was very rife at the SARS. And so all that we are saying is that we are rebuilding the country itself. We're making sure as the ANC that those who are deployed in those senior positions in government are people, men of integrity, people who are skilled, competent, and who are incorruptible. And so as the African National Congress, we're mobilizing society to give us another chance to govern on their behalf, because there's no any other party that can govern this country the way we're governing it, in terms of getting rid of racism, making sure that there's economic growth, making sure that we build artisan skills, especially amongst young people. We're moving to say that young people should not only want to be graduates of human resources, human sciences, but they must have artisan skills, because it's only through artisans skills that they have that we can be able to grow the economy. And so young people, that's why we're focusing on young people to say, even if you have a degree in social sciences, go to a TVET college, because once you're at TVET college, you'll be given those rudimentary skills for you to fend for yourself, for you to rebuild the country. That's what is important for us. Okay, two challenges, though, that the African National Congress is facing at the moment, and I'll stay with you, Dr. Zikalala, for this one, right? And I'm going to clump these two together just in the interests of time. The Democratic Alliance having laid those charges against the Deputy President, Paul Mashadila, alleging mass corruption on his part. What does the African National Congress do to deal with that matter? And then I'm going to bring this one in as well, and if you can answer both, if you will. We saw this week by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal where the ANC, the IFP rather, has beaten the ANC in a by-election in Newcastle. We saw the new party that is only 2 months old, the MK party, scoring 28% in Pongolo in Zululand. So seemingly massive threat right now to the African National Congress. What is it that you need to be doing to gain those numbers back? Because you only do have just a few weeks till we get to elections, depending on when the date is. Yeah, well, coming to the question of the first question that you raised in terms of the deputy president, the deputy president said those who have information that is corrupt, let them take the matter to the Hawks. That's what he said. And so let's see what the Hawks are going to do. Let's see what NPA is going to do. Let's not jump the gun. And then he said he's prepared to answer for the wealth that he has amassed. And he'll answer in court. We are a country which believes in the rule of law. And so no one should be willy-nilly charged without any background as to where he got the money from. In terms of the MK party, of course, MK party is eating into our votes, like EFF is eating into our constituency. It is a concern. And but what we are saying to South Africans is that it's only the African National Congress that can better the lives. policies are there. The MK party, it's so sad for us to listen to Comrade Zuma saying that his party is anti-corruption. But he's the person who was accused of corruption. He's the person who assisted the Guptas to loot state enterprises. And so he can't say the MK party will do better, is against corruption. Where is the money? Where are they getting this money to print T-shirts, to have all these imbizos? That money, they don't have. Where do they get it from? And so it's up to SARS, it's up to the Hawks to follow the money, to say where do they get the money from. And so, but our people are literate now. They understand the situation. They will never vote for a party that is going to mislead them. They will never vote for a party that will be led by people who have got criminal records. Zuma has a criminal record already. That is why IEC said he cannot be the president of MK. And so this party, in as far as we are concerned, does not have future in South Africa, but it has got the right to exist if they follow the law. Because all of us have to subscribe to the rule of law.
Yeah. Mr. Shilowa, that voice there by Dr. Zikalala and certainly the African National Congress, I mean, is that sufficient to hold the voters that have given that cross to the ANC?
Well, I think, election time is a time when political parties sell dreams. And I think for me, the issue is how ordinary men and women, voters, are able to ask deeper questions. And Snuki is right to say that I think, former President Zuma saying that he's against corruption. I think in any other circles, people would laugh at him. But, even when he was elected president of the ANC, he had those charges with him. Even when the issues of the Guptas and him enabling state capture was happening, he was the president of the ANC. And I think so, yes, the ANC have now spoken out against state capture and corruption, but sometimes they speak as if it was another party that was in power during that corruption, when in fact it was the very same ANC that was there. So, I mean, one is looking forward what happens in the hustings. President Zuma have got no policies of his own. He's just winging it as he goes along, but it seems like there are many people who just like what he says. And
of course, we do await the manifesto of the MK party, but 28%.
You're going to wait until whatever. I'm not sure they'll really be able to table a manifesto.
Well, as the newsroom, we certainly will be looking for it. But I want to get back to the numbers here. 28% in Pongolo, Zululand. That's a significant number. Dr. Zikalala, that really is something that you can't deny. I mean, let's talk a little bit about what that would mean. So in some of those by-elections, you saw the likes of IFP getting votes well above 45%, 28% going to the MK party. It's not numbering very well for the African National Congress in KZN, of course. So this is starting to reflect what we were starting to see really in the polls and surveys that have been run. What are the options for the African National Congress? Okay, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Shilowa. I wanted to bring this one to the point quickly. Yes, please.
No. Yes, no, he can. I just wanted to say that I think it's true that we need to look at the percentages and the by-elections. But I think we should not be carried away. 1,000 people who go out to vote, 28% is really not a very big number.
Okay. Well, and the reason why I raise it, though, is because if you put it together with other smaller political parties, opposition parties, that does present a threat to the African National Congress. That cannot be denied, even though we are throwing forward, or as you will, throwing the bones on the matter. But I want to look at what the coalition options are at this point for the African National Congress. When you start to crunch the numbers, is there whispers within the walls of Luthuli House that perhaps discussions, even with the Democratic Alliance, need to be taking place? Dr. Zikalala.
No. We as African National Congress, especially the Veterans League, have issued a statement on coalitions. It's there on our website. We are not campaigning for coalitions now. We are campaigning for an outright victory of the African National Congress. We are saying to our people, let them vote for the African National Congress, even at local government. We are saying the coalitions have not worked even at local government. sphere. And so we are just campaigning for an outright victory of the African National Congress. Because once you are in a coalition, you cannot implement policies. You cannot. Currently, we as veterans, we have pushed a motion that you should sever ties with the EFF and the Patriotic Alliance. And that is going to happen. The EFF does not have shared values with the African National Congress. Our shared values is a question of the rule of law, constitutional democracy, non-sexism, and making sure that you account for the money that you have got from your funders. EFF has never submitted any financial statement to the IEC. And yet they've got millions of money. You can see how their campaign has been run. Yeah. And so we are saying our law enforcement agencies, they must just act and pounce on them, especially even SARS. And so we are saying we are not campaigning for coalitions. We are campaigning for an outright victory of the African National Congress.
We are campaigning for an outright victory of the African National Congress. This is while public sentiment really for 2024 is that this is probably one of the most important elections we've had since 2024 because of the massive talk around coalitions. And even the voters are aware of this. So when you have an electorate that says, fine, we will continue to vote for the African National Congress. And Mr. Shilowa, I'm actually bringing this one to you from the outside looking in. Would it be a betrayal then for once we get to the point where coalitions do take place, the African National Congress starts to speak with parties like the Democratic Alliance?
No, of course, it will not be a betrayal. You know, I mean, all political parties, even a party that really have got no hope in snowball's chance of getting any vote, will always say we campaigning to be the government of the day. Once elections have taken place, if there's an element that needs coalitions, I'm sure parties will be able to talk together. But I wrote an article last week in which I am saying that maybe I may be the odd one out. But I really don't think people need to count out the ANC. A wounded buffalo can still charge. So I'm not saying that they will win, but I think that, working on the assumption that because Paul says they will lose, it may not happen.
All right. I'm gonna give you, Dr. Zikalala, a last bite here, and you can perhaps give us a closing thought, but also a message that you'd like to share to the various Tintswalos that we have in South Africa.
The various Tintswalos, we are saying that let them be active in politics, let them be active in the structures of the ANC, let them be critical. We need those critical minds, especially amongst the black intellectuals, black business people. But our values are so important. We've got human rights values. And so we are saying that Tintswalos, don't despair, mobilize yourself, be part of the ANC structures, make sure that you bring about internal change within the African National Congress, because it's the only party that has the best policies in the world. And so we are happy that Tintswalo's issue has been dealt with, so that people should understand. My kids are not part of Tintswalo, but they've got the best education. Even they're coming from Model C. And so we had no education as black South Africans. But now Tintswalos, they are there, they've survived, they're surviving, and they are happy with the life that is happening. But we must get rid of mass unemployment amongst young people. That's where our focus is as African National Congress.
And for many young people, that is an urgent bit of work that needs to be done there. But we leave it there. Thank you so much to the both of you for giving us your time. Former Gauteng Premier, Mr. Mbhazima Shilowa, as well as ANC veteran, Dr. Snuki Zikalala.